You're about to watch a Trains Newswire video. If you enjoy what you see, consider watching some of our other full-length videos. Selling Sunshine, the Florida Trains. Locomotive 2017, a video companion to our best-selling annual issue. Big Steam is back. All of these and more are available from our website, kalmbachhobbystore.com. Good morning, Trains Nation. Today is Friday, November 3rd, 2017, all day. We're glad you could join us for another episode of Trains Newswire Roundup. I'm so glad you could join us. I'm Steve Sweeney.
And I'm David Lassen.
And, we've got some stories out there this week. It's not a record-breaking week for stories, but a record-breaking week in some ways for the kinds of news that we have out there.
Well, and as usual, it seems like it's all CSX all the time.
Yeah, well, we can get to CSX, but let's start off with something happy. This is not happy for you, but we do have a story out there. You're a Dodgers fan.
Yeah,
but we have a story.
I'm not happy about this at all. As a matter of fact.
But the Houston Astros, the other team in the World Series, have a train, and it turns out that I didn't know this until the World Series. But they have a locomotive that goes out, and they have a real steam whistle hooked up to air, and they blow the whistle every time the Astros get a home run. We've got a story on it on Newswire, and we also have some video borrowed from ESPN, embedded from ESPN, so go check that out. And then you had something else that piqued your interest from Los Angeles, an anniversary?
Yeah, being a native of Southern California, I wanted to note that last Friday was the 25th anniversary of the Metrolink commuter service, and just having grown up in California, it's amazing me to think now that they have a 538-mile commuter railroad system.
Wait, did you say 538 miles?
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of trackage.
It's a sprawling area, and it's a sprawling system. I mean, it runs all the way from Ventura in the north out to San Bernardino in the east, and to Oceanside in the south. I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover. But it's gone from nothing to a really extensive system. I've ridden it a tiny amount. I know there are people who use it quite extensively, and it's just great to have the option. I mean, when you consider that since 1990, not only has that started, but the 105 miles of the subway and light rail, I mean, it's pretty amazing where Los Angeles has come in terms of rail transit in 25.
Now we were speaking about this just before we turned the camera on, and Metrolink, the commuter rail, doesn't replace something like in around New York City. There's Long Island Railroad and New Jersey Transit and Metro North that took over from predecessor railroads. But in LA, there was nothing.
This started from scratch. I mean, it really is. That's another reason it's pretty amazing. There was really no commuter rail history there, at least not in my memory. I don't know if maybe back in the earlier days of LA there was. No. I don't think so. Yeah. But it's just because it keeps growing outward, you really need these things, and the freeways can get so choked. I mean, I know people, particularly out in the San Bernardino area where I worked for a while, they rely on it pretty heavily because the freeway alternatives are pretty nightmarish.
Yeah. Well, anyway, congratulations to Metrolink.
Yeah, it's a great thing to see.
Now, an oddball thing. Now, this is a train, but it's not on rails. Not exactly. A Chinese city, I'm not going to bother pronouncing it, it's in south central China, has come out with a smart train that runs on highways and streets, and it follows dotted lines. Did you see this?
I did see something about this. I hope that this is more of a real thing than that. Did you remember the thing that was going to be like a bus that
right.
It's sort of straddle the traffic?
Yeah, that thing looked like it was like a stingray or something. It was just going to sort of waft over traffic on the streets, following guide paths with wheels. Yeah, but this one, I mean, it looks like a light rail vehicle, a modern light rail vehicle, but instead of rails, it just sort of automatically knows where the dotted lines are. Sort of like one of those things, like one of those toys from the 80s or early 90s, like where you put the pen over it, like you go this way and it goes ding, 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 and if you go the wrong way, you go, so I don't know where this is going. I don't know where it's going, but they're doing it.
I don't know where you're going, so that seems fair. But
yeah, well, but it's interesting. It's interesting. They're coming up with all these interesting ideas, different ideas in China, and they're still calling them trains. They think that's more appropriate than a bus.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure I see the point. I mean, I guess it's the ability to expand it rapidly, but it seems to me like having actual rails to guide the thing is a useful sort of
And it's
safety feature.
It not only safe, and it's more efficient because we know that the coefficient of friction is 1/10 that of rubber on road when you're using steel rails and steel wheels. So anyway, good luck to them on that. All right, now let's get to CSX. Okay, we've been avoiding it long enough. Let's get to CSX. So major changes coming in the network. This week, CSX sources confirmed to us, and in a few cases, CSX itself has confirmed that essentially they're closing the North Baltimore yard. They're pulling out of a new super yard in North Carolina, and they're also not going to go forward with the Howard Street Tunnel in Baltimore. Big changes. They're getting away from the hub and spoke strategy. They've completely discarded any pretense that they're going to have a three-sided network, the giant triangle.
Yes.
You know, that's gone. And what the network looks like or is going to look like, we don't know. But there's going to be a lot of merchandise trains out there with intermodal.
I think of those three items, the one that surprised me the most is the Howard Street Tunnel.
Me too.
Because that's the thing that, I mean, first of all, it's a huge project, $425 million, and CSX was only going to pay $145 million. I know, only $145 million, but still, federal and state money was going to pick up the rest. The government agencies involved are not very happy with CSX because they've done a lot of work to prepare for this. But the big thing to me is it's just, I don't see how you benefit from not having the capacity to run double stacks. I mean,
like options.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, options. Yeah, I don't see it either. Maryland legislators, in fact, both U.S. senators and every U.S. representative from Maryland have invited CSX CEO E. Hunter Harrison to a meeting on Capitol Hill. I wonder if he'll take that invitation.
I think that's a meeting you can't refuse. And I think Hunter's more used to scheduling those than being scheduled for those. So
yes.
That will be a very interesting meeting if it does in fact take place.
That's precision scheduled legislating.
Yes.
Head cold. I don't know, so it's going to be interesting. We're following up on that. We also have a story on CSX's new COO, Chief Operating Officer, Mr. James Foote. We've got a story out this week about him and a story about how much he's going to be earning. Check out that number. Believe it or not, more than either Cindy Sanborn or Frederick Eliason were making for taking the same job. He's taking both their jobs, so maybe that's fair, maybe that's worth it.
Yeah. It's just, you can't really go a week without big CSX news. It's just
no, you can't. You know,
ongoing.
it's just such a big player in the East and such a big player balancing out of Chicago and freight traffic. I mean, CSX has its own customers. They're responsible for a lot of freight movement. Another thing too, ECP brakes. The deadline has come and gone for people to comment on whether electronically controlled pneumatic brake rules should go into effect. The feds were going to require it. New studies have come out recently saying that ECP brakes are not cost effective. Railroads have been saying that for a long time. It looks like only 2 people or 4 organizations, 2 each on labor and 2 each on the railroad side, commented, and no surprise the railroad's against it and labor is for it. But we've got a Bob Edmondson story up online right now, so it's interesting. Interesting stuff. Anyway, what else you got so far?
That was basically just a quick note that Amtrak returned to Roanoke, Virginia.
Oh, absolutely.
This week, first time that city's been served since 1979, I believe.
And the Hilltopper.
Yeah,
I think that was the previous train.
Now it's just the Northeast Regional service has been expanded down to Roanoke, which is great for that city because it connects it to the rest of the major cities in the East now.
So in theory, you could get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and take the train from Roanoke to Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Great
to have those kind of options.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's absolutely good news. Absolutely good news. So read all of those stories and more. We've got some video on Newswire this week. Be sure to check that out and be sure to keep reading Newswire for all the updates on CSX and anything else that may be coming along. For everyone at Trains, have a great weekend.
Thanks.